In this video, I'm going to introduce the concept of visual scripting for Unity. Visual scripting is a way to add logic into our games and projects without having to know C# code or other programming languages. Typically, these visual scripting languages, which are supported by many game engines, as well as many other software applications, are used by not just programmers, but also designers and artists and other content developers, people who don't want to worry about the syntax of individual lines of code and instead want to worry about what's the logic that I want to put into my project and do so in a really easy way. For this project here, I have a sample scene set up and I have a player which has a rigid body and a box collider on it, so it'll fall when I hit play. I have a floor which has a box collider on it, so it'll remain static in the world. When I hit play, we'll see this happen and we'll see the player object fall and hit the floor. Great. What I want to show you is this. When I hit the space bar, my player will jump. I hooked up the logic to do this without writing a single line of code. And let's see how that's possible. If I take a look at my player object here, I'll notice that there's also a variable section as well as a script machine. On this script machine, I have this graph, and if I open it up by hitting this edit graph button, I can see this. This is the visual scripting language of Unity. Unity allows us to drag and drop these individual logic blocks down and perform essentially any of the logic that we could otherwise do in C#, Unity's scripting language, except do it in this nice visual way. Very easily, I can read exactly what this is doing once I get used to working with these blocks, and it's pretty quick to add brand new blocks into this graph that I'm looking at. I can hook up new bits of logic and quickly modify and change what happens relatively quickly. In addition to that, I can also see which of these blocks are actually currently executing. If I go and hit play and then keep an eye on this graph, I can see exactly what's currently executing, exactly what's running. I can see that input is being processed and checked, and I can see whether or not these blocks are actually executing. Notice when I hit the spacebar, these blocks light up because they're actually, they're fired one time. They're executed once. Each of these blocks contain logic or sort of control the flow of what's going on in the project. And together, all of them create the logic needed to make this character jump. These individual blocks, which are called units in Unity's visual scripting language, have multiple types of connections here. These connections are called ports. There's flow ports, and then there's data ports. Flow ports control the logic and sort of the flow of your program. What happens sequentially one after another. In this simple case here, I have an update event. Update events happen every single update of the game, every time a frame is rendered. So mine's probably running at 100 plus times per second right now. Every single update, it flows into this get button down unit. Get button down is checking on whether or not I push the jump button. After that, it flows into this if statement. If I have pushed the jump button, then it will continue flowing into this get component. Get component will get the rigid body, and then finally we'll add force onto the player. All of these combined have allowed me to define exactly what happens when I push the jump button without writing a single line of code.